Good morning and welcome to another edition of Inside Oakwood with Dr. Leslie Pollard. We have an exciting segment for you today. And good morning to you again, Dr. Pollard. Good to see you.
Good morning, Donna. Good morning. It's a pleasure to see you this morning on a beautiful sunny morning after such ferocious storms ripped through northern Alabama yesterday.
Right. It's turning out to be a beautiful day with some sun because we had a lot of rain and debris and flooding and all of that. Well, the flooding is still going on, but it's going to turn out to be a beautiful day, huh?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
All right, so we have some special guests on today for Inside Oakwood. Do you have a word about what we're going to be talking about this week?
Yes. And of course, the key word pivots from the scripture, 3 John chapter 2, which says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health." Isn't it interesting, Donna, that we have watched across the last 25 years an incredible resurgence in the interest of healthy living and particularly healthy eating. And so as we think about the scripture's call to health, Oakwood University believes that one of our principal contributions to our Huntsville community is the promotion of healthful living and helping every resident experience the fullness and the abundance of what God has for them in terms of their health. So today, what we're actually talking about is now we're looking at some of our alumni, ladies particularly during Women's History Month, who have really focused in on what it means to do healthy eating and healthy nutrition and all of those other things that would make life full and meaningful. So we're excited today, and we're going to have a great conversation as we talk about not only health in the broadest category, but particularly what does it mean today as we watch veganism have a tremendous and pervasive interest on behalf of so many people, so many people. Even over at Oakwood Farms Market, we meet so many vegans who come through because they want to buy the kinds of food that are locally grown and chemically free. So that's what we're talking about today. And it all pivots off of 3 John 2. I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health, even, and I didn't complete the verse, even as your soul prospers. So that's what we're talking about.
All righty. So I love that, Dr. Pollard. I remember a time when it seemed like let me just speak for me. It seemed like Adventists were the only ones trying to eat really healthy, but that's not true. Everybody was trying to eat healthy. But we kind of had an advantage because we already had vegetarian meats and things like that. I remember when they didn't taste so good, but they taste a lot better now but now we do have a dietetic scientist on who works for Oakwood University. We talked about Dr. Sherine Brown. She can tell us how veganism is impacting our health. Dr. Brown.
Sherine. Yes, thank you. Good morning for the opportunity. Veganism is a very powerful tool and a dietary practice that is the most compatible with our anatomy. It started at the very beginning. And so it's part of what we call the plant-based diaspora in essence, but the health benefits are phenomenal. And that's why so many people, as they really delve into the practice of eating a vegan diet, that it is showing benefits, not only cognitively, more improved brain health, cardiovascularly, emotional health, sexual health, physical health. I mean, it's strength. There's so many benefits that come with eating truly a plant-based whole foods, in essence, diet that's fresh fruits, grains, legumes, beans, nuts, seeds, and doing it in a creative way. We're not just talking about eating grass and, and having something that's unpalatable, as chefs will share. They are, I've seen work and others who can actually take this dietary practice and make you wonder, is there something else in this food? I've tasted Cynthia's food and it's like, you wonder, because there's so much creativity that you can do. And so the health practice of a vegan diet, one that, again, is free of animal byproducts, has tremendous benefit and is scientifically sound. It's compatible with our anatomy and our strength and our vigor.
So let's explain that for our listening audience and let them know what we're talking about when we say, I'm a vegan. What does that mean, Dr. Sherine Brown? Fraser.
So, Fraser, yes, thank you. It's a hybrid, yes. So, there are many definitions, but one that's tried and true is a vegan by definition as someone who can be ethically based or non, as far as abstaining from animal sources, but completely abstains from all sources of dietary intake of animal products. They strictly consume food sources that are from the plant-based origin. There's some, again, ethical ones who also do not consume, wear clothing that it's from animal sources as well. So there's kind of a spectrum, quite honestly, as we look at the vegan diet in essence, and some who don't even consume honey because it's from an animal source as well. But in essence, a vegan is someone who completely abstains from all animal products and sources, but predominantly consumes foods that are grown from the ground, in essence.
Wow. So we have some special guests here who can speak to this as well. We have CC Péan, who is here. Tell us about your company first. We start there because I felt like I was mispronouncing the name of your business all morning, but you said I had it right, right?
You have my last name right, the name of my business. First of all, thank you. I am so honored as an Oakwood alumnus to be back. Class of 1993. But you know what? Look, this is healthful living. This is healthful living. I'll be 50 next month. God is good.
Congratulations.
But I'm a proud alumnus. I am a plant-based chef. The name of my business is Afcavé, which is an acronym for Afro, Carib, Vegan. And the focus of my business is a celebration of the African diaspora through a plant-based lens. So I promote and I celebrate and I incorporate African foods, flavors, and cooking traditions in my approach to plant-based food. And what's really interesting is if you look at the basic traditional diet across the continent, it is plant-based.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, let's bring Heather Martin in here. She's also a vegan chef called the Chef Mommy. Tell us about that, Heather.
Well, my journey into veganism was a little bit different. Of course, like we all said, being a Seventh-day Adventist, we have been doing this for years. And so in my home, I didn't realize that we were doing it because my mom was vegan since I don't know how long I can remember. And we didn't call it vegan. We just knew that she didn't cook with eggs and milk. And fast forward to some years later, I have 4 children and all of them, unfortunately, but fortunately, because God still blesses, but they were born with food allergies, severe food allergies to all of the things that would render you vegan. So eggs, they're allergic to milk, they're allergic to nuts. They are also allergic to like fish. And so I'm in the kitchen nonstop trying to make life safe for them. So in the process, I am vegan. I decided that living a lifestyle not being vegan was not good for me because I was lactose intolerant. So I just decided with the kids and with my lactose intolerance, the best lifestyle for me would be to go vegan. And so I just got in the kitchen, started making things, being creative, because my biggest thing was I'm from New Orleans and food is very important. I mean, food is important to all of us, obviously, but in New Orleans, there's a saying, we live to eat. And I just didn't want my kids to grow up missing out on things that were, to me, cultural and were wonderful because they have these food allergies. And so I decided one of my kids have coined me the Chef Mommy, to just share my experience. And my motto is to make my food safe, number one, for my kids, healthy, delicious, and beautiful, because what we eat when it's beautiful, it's pretty. So I always just like to teach people about doing that. And that's how I came into veganism. And that's why I'm called the Chef Mommy.
Great. So you know firsthand how this type of diet can be beneficial to your health.
Absolutely, firsthand. I think my kids, they don't realize the blessing inside of, I mean, we're surely afraid of, I would love for them to be able to consume anything, nuts, but for us, it's tricky. We have to, be safe because it could mean it's the end of their lives. So my aspect and the avenue that I come in is from the food allergy aspect of it all, and teaching people that you can still be vegan if you have food allergies. And I think that it's probably the better route for anybody. Like Dr. Fraser said earlier, I think our bodies just vibe with it because that's what we were created to eat. So my kids don't realize the blessings in their food allergies that has caused us to eat a healthier diet because you just can't eat anything that you can pick up out of the store. So.
Right. Well, Dr. Fraser, you talked about this as well. And as the professor and chair of the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, tell us about the commitment that Oakwood University has to this diet and how, it's involved in it at all. I have no idea.
Well, thank you for that important question. And I think I'll answer it in fourfold. Oakwood is making a wonderful commitment to nutrition. And first, because we are institutional higher learning, one of the first commitments is having a program, a Bachelor of Science Dietetics, which is a curriculum, I should say, where students can actually graduate with a BS in Dietetics that focuses on the clinical aspects, that weaves in some of the food science, weaves in also some of the community nutrition, but the emphasis is what we call MNT, medical nutrition therapy, where students will be trained to become future RDNs, registered dietitian nutritionists, which are the food and nutrition experts, not only in the clinical setting, but in the public health setting, research setting, journalism setting. It's very, very broad. And so we have students at Oakwood University and students who are prospectives who can come to Oakwood and get a degree in a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics, which would prepare them for the clinical nature of nutrition and nutrition sciences. We also have a new program, which is a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition Culinary with a vegetarian emphasis, which is our newest program. We're also wanting to weave in more of the vegan aspect of it. As a faith, historically, we've been predominantly vegetarian, which obviously consumes egg and dairy, but we are seeing the evidence is so strong that when you even remove those elements, the health benefits just overall are so powerful. However, again, the degree is in a BS in nutrition. It's also food science, culinary, vegetarian emphasis, and it's our newest degree. And so that's how we are committed. And hopefully in the future, we'll also have third degree, a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition Science, which is more research-based, that's looking at the actual nutrients and how nutrition, because by definition, nutrition is the study of nutrients that affect reproduction, growth, and development, which really is at the cellular level. So those are the three areas that our department will be focusing on. Also, our dining hall is the only, it's the only HBCU that has, historically Black College and University, for those who may not be aware, that is vegetarian. And that's huge. That's really huge. We had a documentary film individual came, and we'll talk about that maybe a little later if time permits, was really blown away by the fact that we've been practicing this for over 120 years. And so that's the additional commitment, that we didn't stem away from that and are always growing and improving and wanting to do, growing to higher heights in that, and keeping our students at the forefront. And then our Community Health Action Clinic, which is going to have a state-of-the-art cooking area, state-of-the-art cooking demo lab. It's really going to be, it's more than a kitchen. It's really going to be a community-based area where cooking as well as science can be practiced. And then our farm, our farm, how many HBCUs still have an amazing farm that promotes this eating pattern. So those are the areas I think of commitment: curriculum, the dining hall, Community Health Action Clinic, and our farm.
Okay, so Dr. Pollard, even though the vegan diet is not new, Oakwood University is really going in a little bit deeper now.
Yeah, we're going hard at it, really, because we think the time is right. We think that this is a wonderful opportunity to step forward as the only Seventh-day Adventist vegetarian HBCU campus, and to really assert what the blessings and benefits of the lifestyle really are. It's interesting. I watched on Netflix. If anyone hasn't seen it, there's a quote by a gentleman on a Netflix special called "The Game Changers." And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really worth watching because it shows these world-class athletes who have moved to a plant-based diet. And so it's interesting. One of the weightlifters who was registered at one point as being the strongest man in the world, lifting like 600 some pounds or something like that. But when he told his friends that he was going to become a vegetarian, they said, no, you are as strong as an ox. He said, how are you going to, I'm paraphrasing, how are you going to be a vegetarian? But because you have to be as strong as an ox. And he asked him a question. He said, have you ever noticed what an ox eats?
That's
fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Game Changers. I would recommend everybody watch it. It's really very interesting. As we move, but we have a question though from one of our audience members. And I guess I'm going to direct this to Dr. Brown Fraser, and then our then our practitioner, Cynthia and Heather, one of our listeners says, I would like to gain weight. I lost weight trying to be a vegan. What can I eat to gain? I stopped junk food, and that's where a lot of it went. Isn't that interesting? What a problem to have, right? What a problem to have.
Right.
Okay.
That's a wonderful problem to have. And if I may just do a quick plug, we're actually showing Game Changers this afternoon at 3 p.m. Central Time as part of National Nutrition Month. So we'll actually be showing it via Zoom, to campus Facebook. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you, Dr. Pollard, for getting that quick opening door. But as far as the person who's asking that question, it's a great question, because when you are on a vegan diet, you will lose weight because now you're consuming more nutrient dense foods that are packed with nutrients, and more calorically foods that are have lower calories, less energy, but not less energy in the sense that you'll have less energy, but it's more, again, compatible with what your body needs. So the natural byproduct of consuming a vegan diet will be weight loss, and that's to an advantage. But in your case, the person who's asking that important question, how can you gain? I think one recommendation would be possibly to maybe consume more food, getting an analysis, maybe meeting with a registered dietitian, nutritionist, setting up an appointment to do an analysis and assessment of your eating pattern, just to get a sense of where you are, because sometimes having another person, giving you feedback, looking at what you're eating and saying, hey, you could be actually increasing here, or, it may not even be a construct of eating pattern. It could also be stress levels. There's so many factors that play into why people gain weight and lose weight that are not always necessarily dietarily or eating pattern related. So my recommendation, it's hard to answer that in a quick nugget, and I'll turn it over to our practitioners to give some actual examples. But I will tell you, beans are fantastic food sources that will not only give you calories and energy, but will help to regulate your metabolism, which will help potentially increase your weight gain.
Yeah, so let's go to Stacey Péan. I know she has a lot to say about this. Even the fact
I know about how to gain weight
and how to make it taste good. I know both of you know how to make it taste good too. But and I'm not making any assumptions about the viewer here. But the food got to taste good, because I see some vegans who have gained weight, and more so after becoming vegan too. So talk to us about that, Cynthia, as well, because you're also a professional chef for athletes.
Correct.
Right? All right, so tell us about the taste and your thoughts about how you can gain weight, gain muscle, whatever, being a vegan, on the vegan diet.
Well, what Dr. Brown Fraser said is correct. It's nutrient-dense food that tends to be lower in calories. So what you have to do is increase your consumption, basically. But one of the fastest ways to increase your caloric content in a healthy way is to do something like nuts. I know Heather's family can't do it, but for example, you get a piece of toast and you put some almond butter on there, or some peanut butter, and you will add that to your meal. Or get those little packets, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. So many companies now have those little packets that are like, 200 calories and 16 grams of fat. And so if you add a couple of those per day to your diet, or one of those per day to your diet, that will definitely help you. So you have to eat healthy fat, but add fat to your diet. And those things that are calorie dense, those are some of the few things in the plant world that are very calorie dense that I would suggest that you add.
Wow. Now
I'd also suggest avocados.
Yeah,
they're good fat, but that's one thing that we do in my home. And another sneaky way that you can, which I'm trying to cut back on. I am jealous. Let me just say that. I wish I had the problem of losing the weight. It's not happening. Not with 4 kids, because I'm trying to make them, things that are still fun to eat. Smoothies can be a sneaky way to add more, like what you mentioned, the nuts and stuff. If you can't just do it, like you can put it in your smoothie. You can get other things that will boost your smoothie and add calories to it. But God bless you on your journey.
Well, so when I talk about, I know both of you do quite different types of cuisine. So Cece is doing the African Caribbean cuisine, and you're doing like more American, I believe, Heather. Could you all talk about what are your go-to seasonings to make it taste really, really good, you know, that you can't put that plate down. You might want to, you know, lick it. Right. You have to go to both of you.
Well, I'll let my friend go because she has something really exciting. Go and tell them, Cece.
Well, let me start by saying this. Thank you, because I can plug myself now. But one of the things that I do when I cook is I believe in developing layers of flavor. Okay. And when you do that, you need less salt at the end. As people of color, we need to stay away from salt. So I'm all about using your garlic and your onions at the base, and using your fresh herbs, and using things like that that do not have sodium, that do not have calories. And so then when you're adding salt, it literally is the finishing touch to your dish instead of the base. A lot of times you'll see people using bouillon cubes and Maggi cubes, and that stuff is MSG and it's sodium rich. So I would discourage against those. But coincidentally, I have a line of spices that I just launched.
Since we asked.
Yes, the line of spices, and I'm going to go very quickly. I have a Habesha spice that basically is very similar to the East African berber seasoning. It's really delicious, a little spicy, so use it in moderation, but it's great on everything. I have a curry. I'm half West Indian, Guyana, so this is a custom blended curry. And then I have this tofu scramble magic. And the reason I created this was because when people take on a vegan or plant-based lifestyle, the two things they tend to eat are hummus and tofu. Yeah. And if tofu is not, like the SDA world, we know how to work with tofu. Yes. A lot of people do not. And so this is a seasoning that really is like a one-stop shop for your tofu. It's got nutritional yeast. It's got turmeric, which is great for our body. It's got, because of the curcumin. We also have a touch of black pepper in there. So this is a great addition. And then finally, Dr. Pollard will appreciate this. I have a maple jerk syrup. And this is amazing. So these are my spices and afcavefoods.com. But however, build layers of flavor with things like herbs, garlic, onions, things like that. And then just use a little bit of salt. Retrain your palate. We have gotten so used to overly salty, overly sweet foods in this country, and it's killing us. So let's retrain our palate to simpler, tastier food.
So Donna, I want to ask a question then. Whether our listeners know it or not, we've actually got the entire diaspora represented in our panel this morning.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So Cynthia's father and I used to be prayer partners and all that kind of thing. So we've got West Africa and Guyana. Of course, we've got West Africa represented. Yeah. We've got in Dr. Brown Fraser, we've got Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, no, Panama actually.
Panama, that's right. Panama.
Yeah, right, and Panama. So I want to ask a question of the three. So, and anybody can jump in on it. How do we? I'm from New Orleans. Heather's from New Orleans too, and her mother and mine were prayer partners. But that's too personal, right? That's too personal. So, but they were, and thank God for them. Now, in Louisiana, you know, gumbo is like a real big thing, right? So, so how do you do that in a way? How do you do cultural foods? So whether it's ackee and saltfish in Jamaica, right? Okay, so in West Africa, I guess, I don't know, gari, I don't know. I don't know what are some of the particular high carbohydrates. You know, I'm guessing I'm way past my lane. I'm real out of my pay grade. I'm doing all of that.
Jollof rice or something like that.
Okay. But my question is this. When we talk veganism, often people hear the death of those kinds of eating traditions.
Right.
What do we say to them that says, wait, you can still enjoy those same eating traditions? I've got two sisters who make a vegetarian gumbo that meat eaters want them to make for the potlucks. I mean, for their dinners at work and stuff. Okay, how do we do that? How do we keep the culture? There's so much culture invested in food. How do we do that while promoting healthy eating?
Well, I think we take baby steps. You know, I think it's hard for people to go from one extreme to the other. And I mean, everybody is different. Some people can just go cold turkey, but there are, you know, as we know, there are a lot of meat substitutes that are recommended to use in the interim of you transferring or switching over your diets. I think that's a good thing. And like Cynthia said, you would be surprised the amount of flavor that you get and you don't have to compromise when you're just using simple things. It's the base of what meat eaters put in their food anyways, onions, but garlic and bay leaves, you know, that's like a favorite things that, and I use liquid smoke, nutritional yeast flakes. There are so many things that you can do to substitute those flavors, and then do take baby steps. Like there's impossible foods. Right now, there's really no excuse, because if you go to Burger King, you could get a burger that's not a real burger that tastes very much like it with impossible foods. Now, I'm not saying stay there and eat a bunch of those foods all the time, but you can, in the interim of trying to process and move over to a completely vegan lifestyle, use those to your advantage. And you have to become like a magician in the kitchen and be willing to work. And that's what I've had to do, especially with my kids. I sometimes ask the Lord, give me creativity and give me what I need to be able to make these foods taste wonderful to them. And on my channel, this is another plug, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. I have made, my mom and I actually did a video, because it is hard to give up gumbo. It is hard to give up all the things you love. And I think we've come up with some really great recipes that will get you over the hump, and they will become your favorites. The things that you take to potlucks, the things that you serve. So go to my YouTube channel, The Chef Mommy, subscribe, and you can find a bunch of, that's what I try and do, because my kids don't get to eat all of the things that they, could eat, even with like eggs and milk and dairy. So I specialize in trying to make cakes and things that help them not to feel left out. And those things can help you as you transition. And I'll let somebody else.
Well, I want you to also respond to the prior question, which was, what were your go-to seasonings as well because you're making more American dishes for your children. So how are you making sure that it tastes good?
And it's the same thing. So in my kitchen, if you were to look, so I use a lot of, my mom has always used in New Orleans, and Cece and I do so much stuff together. We always talk about the Holy Trinity and how that changes from whatever based on what you're cooking, but big on fresh seasonings and herbs. Outside of my door, I learned that parsley will grow year round in a small pot. So all year round, I've had parsley, I've had rosemary. They grow when it's cold. You can just put 2 pots outside of your house. Rosemary, I've had thyme, I've had oregano, all of those things. And I like the dry seasonings as well, because they offer different flavors. So I will cook with both of them. Just, you have to not be shy about putting garlic powder, onion powder. I use liquid smoke when I want to substitute that, get that smoky flavor. There's so many things. There's this one called bacon that I use. And because Cynthia, I have all of her spices now, they've become a part of I love spices. Spices make the world go round. Don't be shy with them. And people who have kids, don't feel shy about introducing them to something new that they might spit out the first time or the first 10 times. Keep introducing it to them. Get sneaky. They say they don't like onions, then don't chop the onion up. Put the whole onion in the pot. And before you serve it, take the onion out. Right. Get creative. You can get those flavors and those spices, but those are some of my go-tos.
Wow. You're listening to 90.1 FM, WJOU, licensed to Oakwood University. So both of you are involved.
Donna, I wanted the other two to speak to the cultural question. So the cultural foods question, and then we go to the next.
And then we'll get to the slave food. Okay, we can talk about that. Well, go ahead, Sherine.
Sure. I grew up in a home. My dad is from Charlotte, North Carolina. My mother is from Central America, Panama, grew up but came to the United States. So Spanish was her first language. My grandparents from Jamaica. So our home, the food was very diverse. And I think it's so important to honor the foods where people are from, and not to say that because it's Southern, or because it's West Indian, or because it's from the continent of Africa, from Kenya, any places that these are not healthy foods. We have to look at what the base of the foods and see how we can tweak them to add not only flavor, but maybe healthier options for the individual, because it's so important to honor, because food is not only just something that we eat, it's family, it's music, it's culture, it's emotions. And so by saying, we have to honor, in essence, where people are from and the foods that come along with them. And so for my experience, I have a 4-year-old and who's going to be 5 next week. And so her palate is continually changing. And one of the things that to go to, especially in the context of being vegan, is nutritional yeast, because it's high in B12. B12 is one of the biggest nutrients that people are concerned with, of not getting adequate amounts, because it's important for the nervous system, for brain development. And nutritional yeast is a great, excellent source of B12. And nutritional yeast can mask cheese, other flavors. In some nutritional yeast, as Ms. Péan has mentioned here, that you can mix it up with other nutrients or other seasonings to spice it up and everything. So I highly recommend making nutritional yeast as kind of a staple, because it covers that B12 concern, as well as it can actually hook up, so to speak, a lot of vegetables that sometimes children may struggle with. You spice that on, my daughter's like, oh, mommy, add the seasoning. Oh, is that what it takes for you to have the asparagus? We will add the little seasoning. If you want to have the arugula, or to make sure you're consuming the Brussels sprouts, add that little nutritional yeast. We will do it, because ultimately we want people to enjoy. We want our families and friends to enjoy food, and not for it to something that they shy away from.
Wow.
So that's just my comment. Be creative, honor people's culture, their background, and the foods, and see how they can be enhanced to improve the health component.
All right.
So let me speak very quickly. Meat is one component of many of these dishes. There's so much else, so many other things going on in these dishes. One thing I will suggest are things like mushrooms. People have an issue with mushrooms, but there's so many different types of mushrooms, so many different types of textures. Lion's mane mushroom is a perfect substitute for dark chicken meat, and it's good for your cognitive health. So there's so many things in the plant world. Just try them. Like Heather said, your child may not like it for the first time. You may not like it. Prepare it differently. Go to your local farmer's market when you can, when things open up again. Go to Sprouts, splurge, go to Whole Foods from time to time, and go into their sections and see what they have that you're not familiar with. Try it. Oftentimes, those are great substitutes for that component in traditional dishes.
Wow. And if you're in Huntsville, Alabama, go to Oakwood Farms Market. I guess we
Yes. I cannot wait to go. I haven't been.
I got some chicken style seasoning from there recently. That's another good one. McKay's chicken style seasoning.
I use that a lot. All right. So both of you have been participating in the slave food on the Facebook Lives, right? Both Cynthia and Heather. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us what that's all about and what is it?
Well, slave food is started by 2 other Oakwood alumnus, Dr. Eric Walsh and Dr. Columbus Batites. They're leaders in their fields. And what they are doing is they are addressing the tradition of slave food, foods that many African Americans eat traditionally, because that's what was offered, that was what was afforded to them, and retraining ourselves to eat foods that are healthier, transitioning from those diets that are pretty much comfort food based, and learning how to eat healthier and in an easy way. So Heather and I take a lot of traditional ingredients, like we take collard greens. I did a collard green wrap. I don't remember, Heather did collard greens that were not cooked to oblivion with ham hock and smoked turkey and all of that stuff, and it was delicious. So they're trying to introduce people to new ways of fixing traditional foods that are healthier and plant-based. And we have come on as the 2 resident chefs to give people examples, not just talking about it, but then giving people practical steps to actually make these dishes.
And doing demonstrations as well. Is that what it involves, those as well? Okay, yes. Well, this has really been amazing. I've been, gotten some tips and tricks about making better vegan food. And we want to know how we can get in touch with you guys and get more information, follow you on social media. Can both of you tell us about that before we go?
Sure, you can follow. So Cynthia and I will be doing the the doc or two chefs in the doc. Did I see? On a monthly basis. And we always talk about it on both of our pages. On Facebook, I'm Heather Martin and the Chef Mommy. And but I check Instagram more often. That's where I'm more active. So if you want to follow there at the Chef Mommy on Instagram.
And I am on Facebook as Cynthia Chia Péan and as CC Péan Official, and on Instagram as CC Péan and CC Péan Official.
All right, Dr. Pollard, you can close us out now. I think that was amazing.
It's been wonderful. So we need to do another show,
Yeah.
and we need to do it in our industrial kitchen. When we get the
That would be awesome.
Yeah, the center, the Community Health Action Center that Dr. Sherine Brown Fraser mentioned, when it is scheduled for opening in June sometime. So once we get that open, we'll do a show right from there. In the meantime, since we're talking about chefs, I want to lift up a chef, Robert Norwood, who is a Seventh-day Adventist pastor who's participating in a chef contest from Bon Appetit. And you can find it on Facebook, Robert Norwood. Vote for him. Vote for him.
Okay.
He's progressing very well. I think he's down into the final 10. And I think it would be wonderful. Now, please, in the chat room, we ask both Heather and Cynthia, please put your handles where people can reach you, and then we can circulate that information. Dr. Sherine Brown Fraser, thank you so much. Our training makes such a difference. What you do every single day as you send out professionals into a field where they are needed. The other thing I want to do is I want to acknowledge the fact that for 41 years, I've been married to a registered dietitian. And my wife Prudence has made sure that our children were raised based on these same principles, these same dietary principles. And I want to acknowledge that this morning because she graduated from the department where Dr. Sherine Brown Fraser now leads. So it's wonderful, and God has been good. And thank you so much, ladies, during Women's History Month for teaching us so many things that we all needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We really enjoyed that, and we want you to join us again for another edition of Inside Oakwood on next week, where we'll be talking about project reflection. Join us there next Monday.